The internet. That has been identified as the public square of America. But has it ever been? Is it today with all the censorship that we see taking place? Let's take a look. Hello, everybody. This is Gary Benoit, your host for Beyond the Cover. And today we're delighted to have with us Michael Tennant, who did the cover story article for the November 22nd issue, Big Tech versus Free Speech. Mike, we're glad to have you with us.
Thanks. Good to be here, Gary.
But Mike, in this article, you devote a lot of space talking about what's happening with censorship on the internet. So I'd like to start by asking you this question. How bad is the censorship? And is the internet supposed to be the new public square? Because that's what we've been told.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to take your questions in reverse order. All right. So I'll say this. Yeah, it seems to me to be the case that it's where everybody communicates. So of course, that's our public square. That's where everybody talks to everybody else on Facebook, on YouTube, various other lesser platforms, but they're all there. I mean, that's where we do most of our communication anymore. So I would say definitely it is the new public square. But yes, censorship is a problem because the internet is so centralized with these big tech companies like Google and YouTube and Facebook that monitor all of our data that's going around, everything we say and everything we publish and our videos and everything else tend to go through them. And so they have kind of a lot of control over what other people see. And because they are largely run by people who are left-wing progressives, they tend to look at right-wing speech, libertarian, conservative, whatever, really anything that isn't the official government line of the day, as hate speech, and they try to suppress it as much as they can.
Well, Mike, I wonder what we can do about the problem. And of course, you've written many articles for the New American Magazine over the years, and so I know your philosophy. I know that you are a champion of freedom, a champion of private initiative, and certainly a supporter of the mission of the magazine, that freedom not perish. What do we do about the fact that we have so much power, so to speak, concentrated on social media, and they're using that power to censor what is being reported in order to try to beguile the American people? But these are private companies, and do we just step in and say, well, gee, we're going to nationalize? But obviously, that's not the solution. But what do we do about this censorship?
Well, that is a tough problem. I will say that, and I'd be the last person to interfere with a genuinely private company doing what it wants on its own platforms. However, are these companies really private? I mean, they're greatly tied up with, especially the intelligence and national security community. I mean, some of them, like Google, were funded by the CIA to begin with, and others have gotten all kinds of money through the CIA's venture capital firm, In-Q-Tel. We know that they share data with the government. We know even that we've got the Biden administration working with Facebook to suppress COVID vaccine information that they don't like. We know that these companies in other countries are very open about their censorship. In China, for instance, Apple and Google are known to censor content. Germany's asking for that related to COVID. So these companies are definitely not wholly private. So could we perhaps hold them to the same standards that we hold the government? If they're going to act like government entities, they're going to give the government all kinds of information from us, and they're going to censor things that the government doesn't like. Maybe we should be holding them to that standard, and that's part of what President Trump's lawsuit is about. He's suing these companies and arguing that they are acting as de facto government censors and hoping to stop that. Other possibility, the Communications Decency Act has a Section 230 that gives these companies immunity from lawsuits if they take down certain content, or conversely, if they leave up content that people may find objectionable. They also have some immunity there. Mm-hmm. And I know there are people, Trump has argued for that too. But the problem with that is if you take away that immunity, Now everybody's under the gun for lawsuits, and who's going to be able to stand up? Well, the people with the money, right? The people
Right.
without the money are going to have trouble fighting these lawsuits. So that's another iffy proposition. The best way may be not to try to shut them down through government, but develop your own ways of doing things. I mean, we know that the New American and the John Birch Society have been under attack from these entities, and they've found ways around it, right?
Right.
You go to other platforms, radio and things like that to advertise, and it's been successful. There are conservatives and others who are out there trying to build platforms. We've heard of Parler and Gab. We've also heard of the problems they've had with big tech shutting them down too. Others, like Trump and another group called RightForge, are trying to build almost a completely new internet that's kind of totally separate from the big guys, and that would have no censorship and would be more open, more in line with what they consider to be traditional American values. Um, that could be the solution too. It may be the best solution because it doesn't involve the heavy hand of government, and it says, you know what, if you want to go have your own platform that's censorship free, but it operates on liberal principles otherwise, you could do that too. I don't know. I'm not sure there's one solution, but maybe a combination of all of these things would work.
Right. I do know in the case of the New American Magazine that despite the fact that we've certainly been injured, so to speak, by the censorship, by the social media giants, we nonetheless are getting peak traffic in terms of traffic going directly to the New American Magazine, and so that kind of fits in with what you're saying. I think is let's not assume that the entire world, including the entire online world, is 100% under the control of these media giants.
Right. They certainly aren't. There are plenty of other alternative platforms, and again, people that are trying to develop alternative internets almost. So that may be more their downfall than anything else. That you can only monopolize things for so long. I mean, it's the case. Same thing with antitrust. There are people that want to go after them with antitrust, but really,
Right.
all these monopolies that people worry about, generally over time they lose their power, and they get competitors that come into the market, and soon they're not the big guy anymore, or at least they're sharing the planet with others. So I'm more confident that we can beat them through the market than through other ways, but I wouldn't discount lawsuits or legal changes either.
Right. Now you mentioned a few alternatives. I don't know if you want to mention a couple more, but for example, there's YouTube, which engages in a lot of censorship, but there's also Rumble, and then you have these news aggregates, and I know one that I like to go to is whatfinger.com. But do you have any other recommendations?
I don't know that I do exactly. I mean, you know them as well as I do. You're gonna go look
Right.
for the ones that show up. Generally look for the ones that show up on the New American website or that show up on other conservative or libertarian places. Those are the ones that are going to be open to these things. There's one of the people that I interviewed for the article was a whistleblower from Google, Zach Voorhees. He's
Mm-hmm.
actually actively working on a platform that will aggregate videos from around the internet, so you don't have to go to YouTube to see them. And if YouTube blocks the video and it gets posted somewhere else, you'll still see it in this video feed. So that's another possibility. He said he was about ready to launch that when I interviewed him last
Right.
month.
Do you have any
So that
thoughts,
should
Mike, about doing things the old-fashioned way? It's wonderful to use the technology, but the technology is a tool. But how about people talking to people in the real world? We don't always have to do everything just online.
Well, that's true. I mean, people can. Of course, they've tried pretty hard in the last year and a half or so to prevent that too,
Right.
keeping us locked down and so forth. But that's certainly a good way to accomplish it.
You
Talk to
think they've been
people instead of
successful? Have they kept people locked down?
well, they've tried. Some
Yeah.
places it's worked better than others.
Well, that's true, but my goodness, you look at the people working for election integrity, and you look at the people fighting critical race theory, and the terrible things that are happening in the government schools, and so forth. I mean, it's really quite exciting in a way to see how people are becoming involved to save their freedom.
Yes, they definitely have. It took a while. I think they got
Right.
maybe some of that lockdown brought this about. They got frustrated with not being able to accomplish anything and not being able to have a voice in what was going on, and so now they're freed from that for the most part, and they're out there making their voices heard.
Do you have any final thoughts, Mike, before we wrap this up?
Um, there's so much about this subject that even though I wrote the cover story that I wrote is long. I wrote a book review about
Yes.
2 books on the subject that accompanies it, and it's long. And there was still so much out there that I couldn't possibly include in this article. I was interviewed yesterday on a radio show, and the host talking about my article said I'd written a novel. Well, you know what? You could probably write 10 novels on this subject and still not cover it all. I've got 2 books here on it, and that don't even come close to covering it. So I would say do your diligent research. Go out. Certainly keep your eyes on the New American for much of this information, but we can't possibly cover it all either. So know what's going on and make yourself aware of the alternatives, and be sure to use them and patronize the businesses that use them and so on, because the more we can get away from big tech, the less power they have, and the more freedom we're going to have.
Thank you very much, Mike, and we really appreciate this cover story that you did regarding free speech versus big tech, and the wonderful work you've been doing over the years for the New American Magazine. And for readers who would like to see this article, go to the description below this video, and that will explain how you can see the article and also how you can subscribe to the New American Magazine. Thank you so much, Mike.